Assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the second part of our Unit 1 of the Productions and Operations Management course. We will continue to understand the fundamental concepts of operations management. In the last session, we studied the role of operations management in businesses, both manufacturing and service organization. We also looked at the 10 critical areas in production and operations management. Our agenda for this session is emergence of operations management as a discipline, emerging challenges for operations managers, significance of service sector, and the conclusions. With this brief introduction, I will request Dr. Abbas to advance our understandings on these topics.
Well, thank you, Ayesha. Ladies and gentlemen, you as students of management science, I'm sure have some understanding and some reading about the history of technological development. Myself, as a student and instructor of management science, have studied the history of Industrial Revolution and the development of management thought over the years, and that has simply fascinated me. The Industrial Revolution has marched to a great extent. I myself have seen, I have not seen a birth of the information technology revolution, but I have seen the boom of IT revolution. And industrial revolution and operations management have advanced in bits and pieces. There's a very fascinating statement which comes from James Martin, the author of The Meaning of 21st Century, a vital blueprint for ensuring our survival. He says, the past 50 years have probably seen more changes than the previous 500 years. And those 500 witnessed more advances than the previous 5,000. It seems the industrial revolution or the industrial development and the technological development and the development of management thought has a sort of exponentially progressed. And there is no, I would say, in operations management, it is also the case. We'll briefly look at some of the historical events that took place during the last 150 years and which can be treated as precursors to as operations management we see it today. For example, in division of labor, the concept was given by the famous economist Adam Smith and Charles Babbage. The standardization of parts concept was advanced by Ali Whitney. Scientific management of Taylor, coordinated assembly line concept associated with Ford, Henry Ford and Sorensen. Then Gantt chart were developed by Gantt. Time and motion studies by the famous husband-wife Frank and Lillian Gilbreth. Quality control concepts which were given by Shewhart and Edward Deming. John Ettensoff and Clifford Berry, they actually developed the first digital computer, and that was marvelous. In fact, the invention of computer and application of information technology in the production environment and overall in businesses, I think that further accelerated the pace with which operations management moved forward. These are some of the developments which took part not at once but over a period of time. Similarly, flexible manufacturing system in which you can vary the product, you can vary the process, you can vary the speed, you can vary, means you can manage. There's a lot of flexibility in the manufacturing process. We'll study that concept in detail in our next sessions. The quality awards introduced by Baldrige in 80s, computer integrated manufacturing. Now, we used to use computer as tools. Now, computers have been integrated in the production process itself, what we call computer integrated manufacturing. And in the 90s, the advent of, I would say, internet has unleashed yet another era of globalization, in which it is not the local production, it is not the national production. The global partners and players, they are integrated in much bigger systems for the sake of efficiency improvements and productivity improvements in operations management. And as we know, internet has revolutionized the world.
Sir, would you describe the work of some of the veteran practitioners in operations management?
Oh, sure. I think all of these things which I mentioned briefly as the heritage, how the operations management thought has evolved, I'll give you some examples. Now, I mentioned Ali Whitney, who basically received a contract from the government to build 10,000 mess kits. And he came up with the, when you do something with hand, you cannot have precisely same part with the same specifications. Each part you produce by hand will be of a little bit of different specifications. Now, the point is, Ali Whitney came up with the concept that there should be some standardized part. He showed that machine tools could make standardized part to exact specification. Okay, once a part is built or part is manufactured, that part could be used to masket 1, masket 2, masket 3 or masket 4. I think that was something great. Because of the use of the machine tool, the production of standardized part was a great advancement. Similarly, Frederick Taylor, who is also known as the father of scientific management, he was chief engineer at Midwell Steel. He studied how the work is actually done, and he began first motion and time studies along with his colleagues. And he is also credited with the management concepts which are termed as the Taylor principles. He created efficiency principles which were later known as Taylor principles. According to Taylor, he put a lot of emphasis on management, and he says matching employees to the right job. Means not everybody could do every job very competently. It means certain specific person who is trained, educated, who has background to do something can do the job very effectively. Similarly, he advanced the concept of providing the proper training. In fact, before you put somebody to do some work, he or she should be given appropriate training for that. Then he advanced another concept of providing proper work methods and tools. Means if you do something, let's say you want to produce this mouse, there is a specific process to produce this mouse. And if this process is documented and then this process is repeated in its production, the Taylor principle says that will enhance productivity and the quality. And he gave yet another concept, establishing legitimate incentives for work to be accomplished. That is, I would say, the behavior science. He not only brought in the scientific principles in doing things scientifically, he also brought the concept of behavioralism also in the management science. Then Frank and Leland Galbraith, we mentioned, these were husband and wife. They developed work measurement methods. I mean, they say that if your job environment is appropriately crafted, or by crafting your job environment appropriately, you can improve productivity. For example, if this mouse is not attached at this place, it is attached this way on my left. it will be difficult for me. For example, having the port here, it is easier to connect the mouse this side. If this port is this side, I think it will not be efficient. You will require a longer cord and so on. The Allen and Lillian Gilbreth, this couple brought efficiency methods in the production environment. And I think they were very famous, and there were 2 books written, and on these books some movies were also developed. These are very fantastic, cheaper by the dozen. And then another book was Bells on Their Toes. I'll strongly urge our students, if you can get hold of these things, you must look at that. These are fascinating to watch. Then Henry Ford. I'm sure you have heard, Ayesha and our students, you have heard the concept of assembly line. It was Henry Ford who started Ford Motor Company, and then he and one of his colleagues, Sorensen, they developed the concept of assembly line. As we know, in assembly line, the part manufactured, or let's say a car manufactured, the car chases moves against various workstations. As the chases moves, at various workstations, workers perform on that. At the end of the assembly line, actually your car is complete in all respects. So assembly line concept was given by Henry Ford, in which unfinished products moved by the conveyor past the workstation. And it was fantastic. It is written in the literature that Sorensen would tie a chases of the car and will pull by himself across the workstations. That is very fantastic. And then, because of the efficiency principles, they brought on the concept of fair wage for the fair job. Since the workers working at the Ford Motor Company in Michigan, they were very well trained, well educated, and they were well paid as well. $5 a day in 1911. That was a lot. And again, Henry Ford and his colleagues at Ford Motor Company are credited with efficiency principles in operations management. Then Edward Deming, before the Second World War, Japanese products were synonym for inferior quality. Means whatever was made in Japan was considered as of inferior quality. It was Edward Deming who brought the quality principles and statistical process control in the manufacturing sector in Japan, and rightly he is credited with teaching Japan quality control methods in post-World War II. And one more thing which Edward Deming came up with was that he brought that workers should also be involved in the production process, in the decision making. Workers should not only do job A or job B. They should also be, whatever happens at the shop floor, they should be involved in the decision making process as well.
So it seems like a number of academic disciplines have influenced the operations management.
Yes, it is true. Operations management, as we see today, it involves almost all disciplines of natural and physical sciences. Means human factors, means how a job gets done. Means if a person is comfortable in a working environment, then his efficiency will be more. If a person is not comfortable, if the working environment is not comfortable, obviously his or her efficiency will drop. As such, human factor, and then lots of industrial engineering concepts, management science concepts, planning, organizing, coordination, communication and control. Then biological sciences, how a human being or a process takes place in a certain setting. Physical sciences, information technology we have seen. All these disciplines, human factors, industrial engineering, management science, biological sciences, natural sciences, physical sciences, information technology, computers, electronics, all these contributed in one way or the other in the advancement of operations management as a discipline. And these advancements have also created some challenges. Means operations management was, as a discipline, was considered certain core principles were there. Now, because of the advancements, these concepts have changed a lot. For example, as we see, the production used to be local or a national focus. Means if a factory is there and factory produces something, it is mostly produced in a district or in a province or in some local area, and certainly not beyond boundaries. Means production was at the most the national affair, but now it has changed to a global focus. I mean, let's say Toyota Motor Company in Islamabad, in Karachi, will be getting parts maybe from Hong Kong, will be getting parts from Bangkok, Singapore, and so on. An engine may be coming from Japan or from Malaysia, and certain parts, let's say, coming from China. Means it is not a national affair. Now the manufacturing, and similarly it is true for services, it had become a global focus. It's not a local focus, it's a global focus. Similarly, job specialization. There used to be a person can do one specific job. Now, no, it is not true. It is empowered employees and teams. It's not one person. It is not a single-handed affair. It is essentially the teamwork, which operations management professionals say that adds efficiency, that adds productivity, that adds economies in your goods manufacturing or service operations.
Sir, in the first session, you briefly described that operations management is applicable to services organization. We would like to know more about the differences between the manufacturing and service organizations, as well as the significance of operations management for services.
Well, Ayesha, it is very important for operations management student, for management science student who study operations management. It is extremely important for them to understand the difference between what actually goods are and what actually services are, because it has a strong relationship with the profitability of a corporation. I'll give some characteristics of goods and characteristics of services, and then I'll compare these characteristics of goods with the characteristics of services. For example, goods are tangible products. This computer is a good. This glass is a good. This rostrum is a good. Tangible product. Consistent product definition. Okay, you produce a computer. The second laptop will be of similar specifications and same shape. Third will be of similar shape. Consistent product definition. Then product usually separate from consumption. Means this was produced probably in China or in Japan or somewhere else, but I'm using it here in Pakistan. Can be inventoried. Means you can inventory 10 computer, 20 computer, 100 computers. You can keep them. And low customer interaction. While this thing is produced, customer is not in picture. It is manufactured in a factory, right? These are some of the characteristics of goods. Now, for the services, in services it is intangible products. Means you go to the doctor, let's say to a dentist. A dentist will look at your teeth formation, provide your service there, okay? Intangible. He won't give you something. I mean that is basically a service. Similarly, let's say we are teaching here. We are not handing over any product to somebody. It is essentially a service. Then produced and consumed at the same time. In order to get a service from a hospital or from a doctor, you will be there and you will be provided the service then and there, right? Often unique. Means let's say a dentist provides services to n number of patients, and each patient will have a separate, specifically crafted service for him or her. Then high customer interaction. In services, you can produce a service when the customer is not there. I mean, it's mostly customer interaction. Inconsistent product definition. Means whatever service, you go to a bank, you go to an airline, you want to travel to let's say New York, or you want to travel to Tokyo. Means for each product, means the service you get from the airline, or another person gets a service from the airline going to Tokyo or going to New York. will be entirely different, crafted to the service needs of the user. Then often knowledge based. It means nobody else could fix your teeth, or no other doctor can look at a certain specific ailment. It is knowledge intensive. It means not everybody could teach operations management. I mean, the person who is educated, has studied it as a subject and taught it as a subject, can teach operations management. Often knowledge based. Then frequently dispersed. These are some of the characteristics of services. Then if we let's say attributes of goods which are tangible products and attribute of services which are intangible product, if we compare them, we see can be resold. Goods can be resold. You produce one, you buy it, you can resell it. Reselling is unusual in services. Can be inventoried goods, difficult to inventory. Some aspects of quality is measurable, whereas in services, quality is difficult to measure. Selling is distinct from the production. Main computer or car or ship is produced somewhere else but sold at a different place, whereas selling is a part of the service. Similarly, product is transportable. I mean, you move a computer or a camera at place A or place B, whereas you cannot move a service from place A to place B. Site of facility is important for cost. Site of facility important for customer contact. Similarly, often easy to automate, production of goods, often difficult to automate. Then a revenue generated primarily from tangible products, a revenue generated primarily from the intangible services. These are some of the attribute differences of goods and services. Here you see, in the last session we discussed, ladies and gentlemen, that pure goods and pure services, it is getting difficult every day to distinguish between what are your pure products and what are your pure services. As we see in this chart, we see automobile, for example, fits in the definition of pure goods, 100%. Then computer, 75%. These percentages are just arbitrary, right? And I mean, it's a domain. Automobile domain from 100% product moves in towards the service element. Installed carpeting, fast food meals, restaurant meal, auto repair, hospital care, advertising agency, investment management, consulting service, teaching, counseling. We see these are, for example, counseling is a pure service, 100% pure service, whereas the automobile manufacturing probably is a 100% pure product. Now, since there is an element of service as well in automobile, in computer, in installed carpeting, but the dominant role is of goods, whereas in counseling, teaching, medical service, hospital care, the dominant role is of services. It means the goods and services, essentially they overlap.
Sir, I have a question.
Oh, go ahead.
As operations managers, do we need to concentrate more on goods or on services?
I think it depends, Ayesha, on the nature of business you are. Services are very, very important. Goods are equally important too. But it depends. If your business is dominated by the manufacturing activity, certainly you'll be putting more effort on goods. But if, let's say, you are a consulting organization, you will be focusing more on the service end of it. This chart, as we see, the industry and services as a percent of GDP in various countries. We see in Australia, the services are about 30% of GDP, whereas the industry is some 70% of GDP. In China, for example, the services are about 50%, we see, and manufacturing is about 40% or so. It means if in an economy, you can replicate the same thing for your business. If your business is more service oriented, you would like to have more focus on service. If your business is more manufacturing like, you will have to focus more on the product. As such, I would say, to answer your question, it is very, very important to really analyze your business and then come up with what actually, how much focus you should be putting. Both are important. I would like to show you, for example, you see the manufacturing employment is decreasing, whereas the service employment is increasing. In this chart we see, although the manufacturing employment in previous we saw is decreasing, but industrial production is increasing. Why? It is because of the increase in productivity. Similarly, I'll give you some examples of in each sector, for example, manufacturing as well as in service sector. In service sector, education, legal, medical and others, they are services. Trade, retail, wholesale, services. Utilities, transportation, services. And there are a number of organizations. Well, ladies and gentlemen and students, the examples of the businesses or name of businesses, if they are multinationals, will be known to you. However, you can fill in the examples from your own environment. Professional and business services. There are some examples. Finance, information and real estate. For example, Citicorp, American Express, Prudential, Aetna, and so on. You add your bank here, Habib Bank, or Bank of Bengal, or Bank of Bangladesh, and so on. Food, lodging, entertainment. Again, these are services. Public administration, services. Now, in manufacturing, General Electric, Ford, Toyota, Honda, Rolls-Royce, Boeing. Construction, Bechtel, McDermott. In agriculture, King Ranch, Archer Daniel, Midland, Cargill. In mining, these are all, for example, some of the examples of a manufacturing sector. We see services are 78% of the employment, manufacturing 21.4% of the total.
So
employment.
we have seen that production and operations management has evolved over a long period and is continuing to do so. We would like to know how the future looks like.
Absolutely bright, very bright, because I'll explain that with the causes why the future I see is bright. In this diagram we see past and cause and future. Past was local or national focus. Now reliable worldwide communication. I'm sure every person, almost every, carries a laptop or carries a mobile phone. I mean, communication had, I would call it communication revolution. And that communication revolution, internet, communication revolution, transportation network. You want to travel to one country to other, in few hours you get there. Once train run across continents and so on. The cause is global focus, moving production offshore. That gives an indication that operations management has a bright future. Then again, lengthy product development because of a number of reasons: shorter life cycle, internet, rapid international communication, computer-aided design, and international collaboration. Rapid product development. Standardized product had gone to mass customization. Job specialization has gone to empowered employees. Future of operations management is fantastic and bright. To cap my discussion, I would say the global focus, just-in-time performance, supply chain partnering, a rapid product development, mass customization, empowered employees, and environmentally sensitive production and ethical issues. These are some of the hallmarks of new trends in production and operations management.
Thank you very much, sir, for giving our students a very detailed discussion on the emergence of operations management discipline, explaining manufacturing and service businesses and their characteristics and changing nature of the business landscape, and triggering our thoughts about what to expect in future as operations manager. In summary, operations management as a discipline has progressed steadily. New tools, techniques, processes, procedures, methods and mechanisms evolved and still continue to do so. Operations management is as important for services business as for manufacturing operations. Number of physical and natural science has helped us in operations management, and it seems will continue to do so for foreseeable future. Operations management discipline has a bright future as the global competition stiffens and organizations are always in search for productivity enhancements method which operations management provides. With these concluding thoughts, our Unit 1 completes. We will see you with Unit 2 in our next session. Thank you and Allah Hafiz.